Hello, and welcome to Chasing Energy, where we provide insights for you to fuel a life worth living. This is episode number 10 with breathing coach Emma Ferris. I am Daniel Lucas, and by day and by trade, I am a VP of Innovation. I was an endurance athlete and ultra runner for a little over a decade, and now I focus on sharing practical and sustainable insights on mindset, nutrition, and training. Today's guest is Emma Ferris. She hails from New Zealand. Emma has been a physiotherapist and breathing coach for about 15 years, and she has a website called The Breath Effect. She has courses that include Breathe Right and Reduce Your Stress, and she also has a women's guide to cultivating calm. Emma has had a chance to test her ability to reduce her stress and take control of the situation, as she has a true story about how she was in a very bad relationship, and there is a true crime podcast on this called Conning the Con that she has produced. So I will tell you, I was a little curious and maybe a little hesitant to book a podcast with a breathing coach, and man, was I humbled. I have been using her techniques ever since we recorded this, and I'll give more on that after the podcast is over. Here are a few things that we discuss in today's podcast. She was a physiotherapist, and she noticed stress and overwhelm in her patients and began to identify that their breathing patterns gave them an opportunity for healing just by controlling their breath. And that's how she sort of transitioned from a physiotherapist into a breathing coach. Looking at your current breathing pattern and gauging whether you're in fight or flight, and there's a 1 to 10 scale we cover in this podcast. One tip we cover is how to get more calm in your mind and body quickly. As you know, if you've been listening to this podcast, I'm really not a big fan of quick hacks and shortcuts, and this is no exception, because Emma talks about how she has to make a conscious effort during her day, even now, to check her breathing and make sure that she's staying in alignment with breathing what's appropriate for the situation. We wrap up this podcast by talking about how Emma uses a few steps in her morning to set herself up for success. And that does include breathing, but it also includes things like gratitude and meditation. I hope you check out her website, The Breath Effect, and I've put her Instagram channel in the show notes. Last thing here, a call to action. If you have not reviewed the show, I would very much encourage you to do so. I'm going to read the most recent review by Johnny Oki. My girlfriend suggested this podcast, and I have heard every episode so far. I finish each episode ready to try something new, whether it's sprouting or pushing to eventually running a marathon or further. I'm always excited for each episode and to start putting the learnings into practice. Thank you, Johnny Oki. What a kind review. I appreciate it so much. I look forward to reading some more of these in the future. Emma Ferris, thanks for being on Chasing Energy today.
Thank you for having me.
So, breathing coach and all those wonderful things that come with it. Tell me a little bit about what that means to you.
Well, the reason why I got into breathing was my background's actually a physiotherapist. So the patients that I would see coming into my clinic, they would really frustrate me, not as their people, but as their conditions they would come with. And I'd be like, oh, I just want to get them better. And what became clear was the way that they were looking after their health. And there was a missing piece of the puzzle that they weren't aware of, that I hadn't been taught about enough, that was leading them to stay in this state of stress and overwhelm. And that would lead into the body having so many symptoms that I was putting the Band-Aid on. So whether it was back pain, neck pain, not sleeping well, anxiety, upset gut, I would see a lot of, fatigue was a huge one. And I realized there was this key piece that people weren't joining the dots on. And it's all about the way we deal with stress.
Okay, so let's talk about
and
that.
We're all going to have stress.
You say it's a key piece. When you started seeing your clients, did you notice their breathing patterns, or did you start suggesting breathing and see results? What was it that made you say, this is something that I feel is a missing component of my practice?
It was both, and it was my own experience as well. So I grew up having a stutter and speech impediment. So I learned very early on about breathing. And then I went through it with my own health, crisis, post-pregnancies and being really unwell, that my nervous system had this hidden, basically, Tesla battery in our body was being depleted over time. with running businesses, with being an entrepreneur, all these things that I was
Hmm.
doing. And I was doing all the things that you have in your circles that you talk
Yeah.
about. You know, I ate well, I
Hmm.
exercised, pretty strong mindset, but I wasn't looking at the glue, which was the way that my nervous system was
Hmm.
reacting. So my own experience is really a big catalyst. But then particularly looking at the clients coming in, every story was a bit different. Every body reaction was different. And therefore, the way that we would help them find their way to calm was a bit different too.
So when you say calm, do you feel like one of the missing components was that they were emotionally and physically not resting properly, so they were in a state of constant, like, were more fight or flight type?
Yeah. So they're in a fight, flight, and freeze is what I look
Right.
at, because a lot of people are actually more in that freeze mode where they're stuck on the inhale and not knowing how to get themselves out of that
Hmm.
action. I'm seeing a lot of that at the moment with COVID, particularly people just going, right, I'm treading water, like the feet are going under the water, but I'm not actually getting anywhere. So a big part is definitely people seeing the link between stress. And stress for me is a psychological, a physical, and a physiological experience. So it couldn't be just, hey, let's change your breathing and that's going to fix everything. It was, let's look at your why, which breathing is contributing to it. I'm not sure if it's the chicken or the egg, but if we don't change it, you're going to stay stuck in that stress state for a long
Okay.
period. So then I'd start incorporating with patients and they'll be like, oh my goodness, I've never slept so
Hmm.
well, or oh, my anxiety's gone away, or I feel so much more relaxed and less
Hmm.
reactive. That is the bit that's really come out now for me, is understanding the reactivity that we get programmed in our bodies. And it doesn't need to be that way. We have more power over our nervous system to shift it.
Okay, so using breath as a catalyst for change on your nervous system, correct? Okay, and
Yes,
then from
ma'am.
the nervous
Absolutely.
system, you're saying it's a domino or daisy chain effect where it affects so many different other angles.
Absolutely. It's the key to slowing down your stress, flight, or fight
Hmm.
response and changing it over into your rest, digest, and recover.
Okay.
And what people don't realize is that your autonomic nervous system, which what most people haven't heard of, but it's the automatic regulator for your hormones, for your stomach and your gut health. It's your heartbeat, it's your blood flow. And the only way that you can actually change that is that's under both conscious and unconscious control is the way that you breathe.
Hmm.
So when you start to manipulate it, change the breath into a way that brings you into a calmer
Hmm.
state, the body goes, I'm safe. And safety is a really big part of it because it's this continuum between trauma and safety. And most of us don't know that we're getting hijacked through our day, through devices, through relationships, through news. And we've got to find a way to come back, because otherwise we're like foot on the accelerator of the
Yeah.
body all day long. And that's not okay.
Yeah. I love the story there of saying learning how to tell yourself that you're in a safe place. When I
Yeah.
was a competitive runner and you would think that you were completely exhausted, there's a rule that the Navy SEALs use and they say if you feel like you're completely exhausted, you're 40% done. You still have 60% of the tank. But my caveat there was that I would tell myself, "Hey, you're safe. You're not going to die. It's uncomfortable right now. The finish line's around the corner," or whatever. What are the major 3 reasons that clients come to you and say, "I need this breath work in my life?"
Yeah. Usually for a physical
Mhm.
reason. So anxiety is a really big one.
Do they say, "I
Huge
have
one.
pain and this," and you say it's anxiety, or do they come to you and say, "I have anxiety and it's causing me all sorts of problems?"
Yeah, so the way that I've developed my business and the way that I work now, I get people coming saying, I think my breathing is an issue.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
self-identifying, which makes my job very
Mhm.
easy. And I have anxiety. And then I go, okay, and then let's look at the big picture. And have you got neck pain, back pain, and all the other things? And they often go, oh, yes, I do. And I have palpitations and all these things that come from the nervous
Yeah.
system being overloaded.
Mhm.
So there's clients that come that way, and then the clients that come for back and neck pain, and I go, hey, there's this bit in the middle between your neck and your back, which is your big breathing muscle, your diaphragm, that connects this, that pressurizes your core, that affects your stability. And I think it might not be doing the right job right
Okay,
now.
so for something like back pain and you say the diaphragm, do you teach them more belly breathing methods for that instead of breathing through their upper chest?
It's a really good question. So yes, my philosophy on this is first, before we move into bigger breaths and how we use breath for more dopamine or happy hormone shift, which is more of the faster breathing techniques, I want people to know how to get into the green calm zone. So that is much more about getting the belly breathing, but not just breathe into the belly, down low and slow. It's about breathing all the way around. And that's why my physio experience has become really clear to me is when you know the anatomy of the breath of the body, you can see that the diaphragm is actually linked in so deeply into the back. So it comes right beside your stress muscles. These little the diaphragm has these little attachments right onto your spine and right beside your hip flexor muscles, which are the ones that sprint away. And if they're not doing the right job, the diaphragm is not working all the way around from the front of your ribs all the way to the back of the ribs in your back, then the other muscles will start to take over.
Okay, and now,
They will beg, borrow, and steal
okay, so I was actually going to ask you to clarify. When you say breathing all the way around, that means what? The
mm,
diaphragm is touching the
into your
front
back.
and the back?
Front, side, and back. So for people at home, if you're not driving, then or you will take a moment to pause, but you can bring your hands around your belly. And so fingers at the
Mm.
front, your thumbs at the
Okay.
back, and just observe how you breathe. One of the first things I do with people is just to get them to become aware of their breathing pattern,
Hmm.
as long as it feels comfortable with you. And what you may notice is that you may move in different areas and different sides compared to the full movement around that we're trying to
Hmm.
get. So just noticing, do you move through the front, the fingers at the
Hmm.
front? Do you move in the web in between the thumb? And do you expand into the thumb at the
Okay.
back? Now, a lot of the time, people that sit a lot in the day don't expand into the back enough, and their muscles through there get short and tight. And when you've been in that stress state or upper chest breathing,
Hmm.
so we want them to not use the chest most of the
Right.
time. 90% of breathing should come from the
Yeah.
belly majority of the time. You use this top part when you are exercising or when you are stressed, but it is your parachute reserve. It is not the everyday
Hmm.
breathing. And that's what I see majority of the time. People over breathing, using the wrong muscles. And once they find the new rhythms and rates, then and the right muscles, they'll be like, oh, this is just changes everything.
Hmm. So when you had them like hold their hands, I've got
Mhm.
mine here. Do you consider that to be a baseline breathing signature? Like this is where we're starting. You feel it more in your right finger than your left finger, and you use that as an analysis and baseline to say what you need to work on.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the whole mirror. Like I'm holding the mirror up for you to be like, ideally, I want you to be able to breathe evenly all the way around. But if you can become aware of like, actually, I don't expand very well into my right side, particularly if you've had back pain or you've had lung issues and conditions through there as well that have impacted it. You've got scoliosis. Actually, I don't expand very well into this one side or the front or the back. That is the starting point to then go, right, I must come back and change that. And then we have different tools that may be actually flexibility that's
Hmm.
required and maybe different breathing tools and techniques or positions to get that to open. But first and foremost, it's to get it to calm first, and then we start to increase strength and stabilize through
Okay,
there.
so give me an idea of what it means to increase strength and stabilize. What is that? A series of exercises or?
Yep. So there's a few different things you can do. Once you've got the right rhythm and pattern, there's some amazing tools out there. One is called a power breath. Have you heard of that before as a runner and an athlete? Power breath's great. It is a inspiratory muscle trainer. So what that means is you're basically dumbbells for your
Hmm.
diaphragm, for your main breathing muscle. So it creates resistance on the inhale.
Hmm.
And this is really important because your diaphragm's actually only a one-way muscle. So it only works on the
Hmm.
inhale and then your exhale should be
Okay.
relaxed. But a lot of the time people are over recruiting the other muscles and that's what they don't realize. They're like, oh, I should be breathing out really fast or heavy. And actually, we don't want that. So when you start to train your diaphragm to be stronger on the inhale, it allows your body to deal with stress as well. So there's some great research behind this. I'm a huge geek when it comes to breathing in the body. There's some great research showing even 6 weeks of training with a power breathe or an inspiratory muscle trainer, just 30 breaths twice a day can increase your diaphragm strength by, the thickness in it by 13%. So if you're getting a stronger muscle by that amount, it then also keeps the body in that safe zone for
Hmm.
longer.
Lower
It doesn't need
results
to
in, I
recruit.
assume, lower heart rate while you're running or training.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the VO2 max, if you're going from a science point of view,
Yeah.
is you get better production on that and
Hmm.
you're able to run for longer without going into recruiting your bad muscles around the body. So
Hmm.
technique and form stay for longer as well. And the resiliency is better.
I can tell you that just you talking about VO2 max puts me in fight or flight because I've done a few of those tests. It is a very brutal,
Yeah,
it's a brutal
it's evil.
experience. I want to make sure I capture this correctly. Work on, with the diaphragm, work on breathing in, and would you say, and then letting the exhale be a natural process. Don't force it. And when you
Exactly.
say breathe in, do you breathe in with force, or do you drag it to a certain amount of time, where it just is like 4 seconds in, then 4 seconds out, or what do you recommend there?
So really good question. When we're trying to go into that calm, relaxed breathing
Hmm.
pattern, as long as we exhale for longer, so
Yep.
doubling the
Yeah.
inhale, we're going to put the brake pedal
Hmm.
on. So we call it the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest recovery part of that nervous system. So even if you're going, if your body's like, I don't actually like breathing in for too long or breathing out for too long, you can start it in for 2 and out for
Right.
4. And a lot of my anxiety patients, like that's their go-to. So again, I could give you a rhythm and rate and say, this is my gold standard. I would love everybody to breathe that way, but not everybody's ready for that. So as long as we learn to exhale for longer, you're going to tell the body it's safe, and learning to deflate the chest so we get that chest to drop down. So we're not staying in this inhale breathing pattern.
Hmm.
So even my first thing I get people to do is to breathe out the mouth just once, drop the chest down, and then work on that belly breathing. Okay.
Hmm.
And ideally, we're in the nose and out the nose. The longer we can do the nasal breathing, the better. But depends on what you've had for surgeries, for injuries, that'll keep you breathing through the
Yeah,
mouth.
deviated septum and all those type of things can be a problem for people. But we
Yeah.
talked about this, but nose breathing has definitely been a game changer for me. We talked about how James Nestor recommends that wholeheartedly. In fact, sleeping with the tape over your
Tape.
mouth
Yep.
so that reduces your snoring and increases how deeply you're sleeping. I want to tell you something that I know I've never mentioned on this podcast, but it used to be my gauge. And you can give me feedback here and tell me if this is bullcrap, because this is just my personal opinion. It's not a scientific paper. Whenever I was I used to be in meetings all day long, and this was pre-COVID or whatever, but one of my gauges for how healthy a person was, and I was, I really felt like I have a pretty good gauge of when someone is a healthy person. Obviously, there's a lot of things you can see about somebody when they're not living a healthy lifestyle, but the number one thing was shallow breathing. I used to always
Yeah.
notice that there's no way to fake shallow breathing when somebody could be fitter looking or not so fit looking or whatever, but I could always tell whether they were healthy and rested by how shallow they breathe. And so, for example, when I sat next to people, when I could, if I could hear you when you were 10 feet away, I already knew you had a problem. But it was
Yep.
that sort of,
Yep.
and they'd be sitting down in a chair, and I'd say, man, if they're breathing that hard at this thing, that there's no telling what their rest and pulse was. But that was just my personal opinion. I'd like to hear you, Wade. How do you assess when you see someone breathing? What are some telltale signs you do to say this is where this patient ranks or what I need to work on?
I love that you say that because this is like a superpower that I can't turn off now. The last 2 years, I go into meetings, I like look at people, and the first thing I'm like, just like a little scan, a virtual scan. You can tell so much by the breath when you are aware of it. One of the other things that you can see is people's yawning, gasping, or sighing. Those are all signs of breathing
Hmm.
dysfunction. So this is not just about a hippie thing about being like relaxed and calm, meditating. There's 80% of the world have a breathing dysfunction. They're not breathing right. That's a lot of people. That's what the research is showing. But a lot of us are stressed. We're not dealing with our underlying reactions and learn these tools that are so simple that can transform our relationships, our sleep, and our communication if we learned to shift our body in the moment. So it's not just good enough as well. I want to sort of clarify that, like you're saying, you're watching people that are in meetings and noticing their body, they might say, oh, actually, I meditate. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not coming through to your pattern through the
hmm
day. So that's not good enough. It's the awareness in the moment that's important.
Emma, I think that's a very good point. Are you taking it through into your life? And I'll, I'll
Yeah.
give you my example. When people say, I don't understand why I'm not healthy, I hit the gym an hour a day, every other day. And I go, yeah, but what are you doing during the other hours? And what are you eating during the other hours?
Exactly.
Are you in motion? No, I sit at my desk and then I sit in my car and then I sit in front of the TV, but I hit the gym for 35 minutes every day. I
Mhm.
go, okay, that's the rest that's your life right there. And they have done studies on the number of hours that people sit in an idle position, and it turned out it didn't even make a difference if they went to the gym or not. If you sat more
Mhm.
than a certain number of hours a day, and I don't remember the exact number, it was worse for you than, say, cancer. I mean, and to some extent in terms of your lifespan. So I like what you're saying there, which is it's great that people meditate, right? But
Yeah.
are you bringing that practice into your life? I mean, when you talk about a religious person, it's one thing to go to church, it's another one to actually live that life in your day to day actions. And I think, Emma, as us both being parents, it's
Mhm.
one of those things where when I'm dealing with my kids, I go, man, I need to treat my kids with the same respect that I treat other people because every now and then I'm not the most respectful dad. But all that to say, we have triggers. We know often what the best path is, but we don't practice it in the majority of our lives. So tell me how you get them to
Yeah.
take that knowledge of, well, I know I should do this more breath out than breath in, but how do you get them to make that an unconscious effort throughout their day?
I think for a long time it has to be
hmm
conscious, and that's okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I still have to be conscious about
hmm
it with what I'm doing and when I get triggered because that's
Yeah.
humanness. We all are going to be reactive, like you said, as parents, as even for us, with all COVID stuff going on, we're all going to get triggered. So what it's about is being like, well, I can feel my body shifting. And that moment of tuning in and being like, right, where am I on the stress barometer? So I often ask if zero is this calm, you can borders are open. Our country in New Zealand where I live, we can't fly overseas at the moment. Like so we can fly to Rarotonga, we can have beach holidays. That's zero. We're just relaxed and calm. And 10 is off the chart. We're at hospital, we're at that level. Like just gauging yourself through the
Yeah.
day and being like, I'm actually at a 5 and going, okay, but is that okay that I'm at a 5? And what are you going to do about it?
hmm
What self care are you going to put in place to shift it? So while I'm like, I can teach people, you can lead somebody to water or you can teach them how to give them a loaf of bread. But if you don't teach them actually how to bake, how to shift their body and become aware
hmm
when they're hungry, when they're thirsty, when their body is stressed, there's no
So the
point.
key
And the only person that can change that is you.
Okay. So the key there is you teach them the scale and say,
Yep.
you'll learn how to rank where you're breathing in this scale. And then you become aware and say, now you're at a 6 versus a 4 or a 7 versus a 2.
Yep.
And then the exercise that is to shift that number back to where it needs to be. So it becomes a very
Mhm.
conscious thing. And for example, when you're rehabbing someone to use a muscle that they're not using properly, it's that very conscious, annoying thing at first
Mhm.
that you want to build up to a point. So, very good point. Now, my selfish question: people waking up in the middle of the night and losing sleep. So, I'll, I wake up in the middle of the night, and when I say the middle, it's about 2 to 3 o'clock is my zone where I go, oh no. So I
Mhm.
want to know which breathing exercise you recommend to help me get back to sleep because I have about somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes to fall back asleep before I'm wide awake. And then the monkey mind starts with all the thoughts of
Yep.
what's coming in the next day. And my breathing patterns probably change at that point.
Absolutely. So awareness of breath is the first step. So even go, okay, if I'm up in my chest, out the mouth and drop it down. And then one of the favorite breathing tools for sleep is the 4 7
hmm
8 rhythm.
Okay.
And so this is a pattern. And you can do this without having to go to sleep, but it's so good because it brings you down slower than 6 breaths a minute, which is my ideal, and the science shows the ideal breathing number
hmm
per minute to get your nervous system to start re-energizing. So 6 breaths a minute. But when you're sleeping, you're going to go slower than that. So 4-7-8 is breathing in for 4 seconds. It's holding for 7 seconds. And then it's exhaling for 8 seconds. So in 4, hold 7, not gripping and holding though. It's going to be gentle. And then breathing out for 8. Now what that does, it slows it down to, again, slower than you normally would. And then it begins to get the body to relax. Now, what I would, again, my little advice on this is that while you can do that breathing, if your muscles are tense, then you're not going to be able to drop it down because your body's going to want to breathe faster and more frequently. So that also depends on what you've done through the day. So if you've pushed your body and your nervous system and your adrenal glands, your stress factory for the day, then at the end of the day, when you go to sleep, your body's tired and it goes into a deep sleep then. But if it's not been able to rest and recover in your sleep, it'll wake up and feel that kind of alert jerk moment too. So the 4-7-8 can help bring it back, but I also use different things like we're like babies. Babies can't cope with 2 things at once. So if you're doing like you're patting them when they're going to sleep, they're like, what's going on? There's too much. Oh, I'm out of sleep. So us humans are very similar. So whether it's listening to a sleep story, or a meditation, even then, or something that's been my personal recovery for my
That's
breathing.
mine as well. Yeah.
Because I had exactly. So that can help switch it off the brain, but I would definitely combine it with the breathing. And I have a wheat bag in my bed that I can put on my tummy to remind me to breathe into my belly. And I am a huge, huge fan of the mouth taping. And that again, it's about making sure you're okay with it before you do that. So that's my little way. Don't try this at home until you know you've talked to medical professionals. But I know it works brilliantly for getting a deeper sleep. So I find if I have tape my mouth, have you tried it at all?
I have actually.
Yep. Does it change your sleep at night at all?
No, I didn't notice it, to be honest. I think I noticed it a little bit the first 2 days. I'd need to do it more often. I will say that I bought a Google Hub. I think they're called a Google Hub. Anyways, it looks like a little tablet that sits by your bed. And it works as a clock or whatever. Turns out you can tell it to track your snoring and your tossing and turning as well. It doesn't have a video camera, but it has a motion detector and a microphone that will tell you how much you're snoring. And it'll give you a sleep ranking with a Venn diagram of how much you snore, how much you turn, etc. So that might be a way, if you're going to try the tape, you can say, I'm going to baseline. And then you're going to say, Emma, I'm going to do 4-7-8s and start factoring that in. So before we move on to the next topic, I want you to walk me through a 4-7-8. So,
okay, good, perfect. So first of all, I want you to make sure that you let your shoulders go because this is where you hold the tension, Daniel. I can see you on the video and the guys at home can't. So that's exactly. So watching when you're gripping and holding on the shoulders. So just dropping the shoulders down and then slowly breathing into the belly 4 seconds and watching the chest just rose up then, Daniel. So we're going to let that chest drop down again and we'll start when you're ready. Another wee cycle. So letting it go. Good. So breathing in. This time I don't want the shoulders move. It should be slowly in. That's better. And I shouldn't hear the inhale coming. If you're inhaling fast, I'm noticing your neck and shoulder muscles coming up.
I promise I'm doing it for the microphone effect. So I can do it quietly.
Okay, good. All right, we'll start again. All right, so quietly. So breathing in for 1, 2, 3, 4, and holding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and slowly out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's start again.
Ready to sleep now.
It'll take a few cycles, and that's the thing. Depending on the brain, it might need you to keep doing that. Or the other one is to actually try and count. And this is a good one. Inhale, you think of number 1. Exhale, number 1. Inhale, number 2. Exhale, number 2. Inhale, number 3. Exhale, number 3. And you keep doing it till you get to 10, and you're going to start again. And it's very hard to get all the way to 10 as you're doing it. So you're thinking of, you're counting the breath cycles.
Okay.
But the brain is like, I just can't do that. I come back asleep. Okay. Helps to get the monkey mind back in.
Yeah. I've tried adding multiples of 3, minusing multiples, math problems that never end and just that are unpredictable. So yeah, distraction, like you said about the baby, 2 things at once, right?
Yeah. But the multiple one still gets that part of the brain that's having you to think and process. Where if it's just breath in 1 and then breath in 2 All you're going to do is just focus on that. It's not too many things. It's not accelerating the brain. And then come back to that. Just a little wee compass, come back to that.
Wonderful.
But I would also work on your body before you go to bed
Mm-hmm.
so that I could see the little tension in the shoulders and neck.
Mm-hmm.
So if they're tight through there, that's going to keep you going back into your upper chest breathing when you're sleeping.
Okay.
And then that keeps you in that pattern. So your sleeping pattern's all to do with what happens in the day.
Very important. An unwinding technique. Turn the digital stuff off, do some exercises on your mat, which is what I do. And for me personally, which is why I was so selfish with the questions about the tight back, I pretty much have to do my routines or I pay the price somewhere. And so that's my wind down routine. Can you tell me a little bit about what your wind down routine is?
My wind down routine usually involves a lovely drink of magnesium.
Which
So
type of
magnesium
which
water.
type of magnesium? I gotta know. So there's do you do does it just have the one type or the one that has like all 8 forms of magnesium? That's the big topic.
Yeah, it's pretty high. It's pretty high quality. It's pharmacy magnesium.
Oh, wow.
My brain's
I
going
didn't know
mush.
there was
So it's,
pharmacy magnesium.
or maybe it's New Zealand based one, but it's a high quality, and because it's liquid, it's easier absorbed
Okay.
instead of a tablet.
So
But everyone's a bit different. The main thing with magnesium is that you're going to get a runny bowel motion if your body has too much of it. But most of us, when you're stressed, not sleeping well, and drink lots of alcohol, not my issue, but some people it is, you deplete magnesium, which helps you relax the muscles. And if you get cramps, you get trigger points, these are all signs you need magnesium deficiency, plus you're stressed. So I'm like, treat everything.
So for
Treat the stress as
for
well as
people that are
magnesium.
listening, and if you're going to have that drink of alcohol, add magnesium and electrolytes to your water. So you
And magnesium chaser.
yeah, use it as a chaser. I like that.
I have actually had patients say that to me. It's like, so can I still drink if I have the magnesium? I'm like, up to you.
Yeah.
So that's part of my routine. I definitely work on my neck stretches. That's where I hold tension, and my hip flexors. So muscles that my body will hold. I've got used to knowing those areas over time. I do a meditation or a breath practice to help me unwind, and it doesn't need to be much. It can be 5 or 10
I was
minutes.
just going to ask you how
but
long
it's
it usually
just-
runs.
Yeah, well, it's often I'm like out to it. So it doesn't take too much for me to go to sleep when I'm doing those things. But, it depends on the day. So some days I need to do more unwind. I need to have more of a sleep tea, or I need to just get outside, or just to have away from noise. Sometimes I'm finding that these days even though I'm an extrovert, I need a lot more recharge introvert time because I'm with people and stuff. So sometimes it could be journaling. It could be just getting the ideas out of my head. And it could be having a hug with my kids, just going, what's going to give me happy hormones, make me feel good and relax and unwind. So I find it's about having this invisible toolbox through life, whether it's for sleep, you pull out the tools you need to help you get to calm. For in the day when you feel anxious, when you are exercising, there's different tools for situations. And that's basically what I teach with my online stuff and with clients.
Okay. The inverse of that question, tell me about the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes of your day.
Oh, it's actually, I wake up and I think about my breath. It seems so cheesy, but I do. Actually, I was going to say the one thing that I always say to myself, it comes in, it's been a little bit of a pattern before I go to sleep, because the words that I say, I think, stick with us. So simple. I love me, which sounds really weird, but I've started to say that a bit more. Oh, I love my kids. Oh, how amazing is my life? How good is this? So I finish on that little note of joy. And then in the morning, I wake up and I go, it's going to be a good day either way. And either way, it's half a day at a time, because we can't change everything, but all I got to get to is half a day and then it will shift. Either way, I've got this. So it's a real mindset shift straight away in the morning. Breath, because it shifts my physiology. And if I can get exercise in, that's fabulous. But with kids being younger, sometimes it doesn't always work. And it's hydration in the morning for me, often I find
Front
too.
load that hydration. My morning mantra is every day's a blessing. And some days I even, most days I believe it. And some days even when I'm tired, I go, it's a blessing to be here. It's a blessing to have
Still a
these
blessing.
problems. Gratitude is easy to pick on. It's easy to say, what a silly routine. But it's been around since the dawn of man. I mean, if you read any religious text, it's the foundation is you need to be grateful for what you have. And I feel like when you lose touch with that, so much of what you have doesn't bring you happiness because you no longer look at it. And much like you said with the breathing exercises, Emma, you have to make a conscious effort to do that. It doesn't always come naturally. You don't just always walk into a room and go, "Well, am I so grateful to have this problem
Hmm.
in my life right now?" So
Yeah.
I think that's probably one of the themes we're getting from this is if you want a better life, you're going to have to make conscious efforts to improve, and they're not the easiest things to do, but they're well worth the effort.
No. Yeah. I love that piece on the gratitude though, because it's something that I do stick with and it feels very Oprah sometimes. But as I said, I'm a geek. And so I've researched the gratitude and the science behind it. And it's like a muscle. You have to train it. And the research is that it changes the hormones in the brain and the chemistry in it. So it's something that, while we go, "Oh, it's a bit woo woo," it's mindset.
Hmm.
When you shift mindset, it changes your stress reaction. It changes the body physiology. And we have power over our body, over our mind, our emotions. We just need to figure out which way to get into it.
Right.
So it's a simple life hack,
Hmm.
like just stop and pause, take a moment to breathe, and then shift that nervous system into a place of gratitude so that those other areas, like when you go and exercise, when you eat the food, when you sleep, you're going to have made your body feel safe and calm and restored so that it can thrive. And that's what it's about for me. We get so stuck in surviving mode, it's thrive state, that we're just so, oh, it's like it's on the other side of the door. We can't quite get to
Hmm.
it. But actually, the more that you work on all these pieces of the puzzle, that wellness puzzle, then you can shift yourself into that thrive state. And I know from my own personal journey that you can do it. It's not a, like, you can go through hard times and you can shift it,
Uh-huh.
but it's 100% a choice.
Safe, calm, and restored so you can thrive.
Yep.
All right. And it's very achievable. It's within our control. Everything that you've said in this conversation is entirely achievable by anybody. There's no part of this
Mhm.
that's a 12-month program. I mean, mastering it is a lifetime, but
Yep.
taking the action is pretty quick. Emma, where can people find you and learn more about you?
Awesome. So there's a few ways people can work with
Hmm.
me. I do work
Hmm.
online. So my business is called The Breath
Hmm.
Effect. So The Breath and EFFECT.com. You can find me there, and you can find me at Instagram and Facebook at The Breath Effect. And there's lots of ways. I have a lot of free things on there, including my breathing quizzes, which are free. So you
Yeah.
can have a
And you have a
look at if you've got a
mastermind,
breathing
right?
dysfunction. Yeah, and I've got the mastermind programs. So starting early new year, I've got my 6-month women's only
Hmm.
group, as well as I have my 30-day breathing training. So you can work with me on a live training over that
Yeah.
month. And I teach you how to build that invisible toolbox. So that's the Breathe Right course. So mastermind, breathe right, and there's a lot of freebies in there as well. So I love people reaching out and learning more about how they can shift their health.
Okay. Emma, if you're in a coffee shop and they know you're a breath coach, this is my last question for you. And they say, Emma, I'm really struggling with my energy and I'm trying to get more done, but I just don't have the energy to do it. What is your 30-second, 1 minute tip for them?
It's all about recharging your Tesla
Hmm.
battery, your internal Tesla
Okay.
battery. So for, as I'll be saying, stop and go outside and be in
Hmm.
nature.
So
That is probably my biggest
when
refuel.
you talked about early in this conversation, you said this is you're in the middle of the three circles, right? Of the
Hmm.
mindset, training, and nutrition. That you're basically saying rest and recovery is where you generally start, and
Yes.
like yourself, stepping outside into nature is a
Yep.
extremely underrated, rejuvenated thing. And in fact, if I ever get the urge, and listen, I love coffee, but I generally limit myself to about 2 cups a day, and if I get the urge around lunchtime or 2 o'clock and I start to have a little bit of a midday crash for any reason, maybe I didn't sleep well and didn't do the 4 7 8s.
Hmm.
Uh, I walk out, I say, well, before you can even look at anything that is going to be a stimulant, you have to go walk around the block a few times. I have yet
Yep.
to come back and be like, well, I'm still tired. So it does
Yeah.
work. It does work. Very simple tips
Yeah.
here, Emma.
Simple
Yeah.
things. It is, but like we're just so get caught up on the rat
Hmm.
race, and that by shifting ourselves away, like learning to pause. That would be my simple thing. Is it's valuing yourself enough to pause. That we're good enough, that we have, that our body needs that. and that we shouldn't be just driving and doing it everybody else. That oxygen mask on first means we need to pause first so that everybody else will gain from that.
All right. Well, maybe I'll add that to my mantra. You're worth a pause, something along those lines. Emma, this has been such
Beautiful.
a blessing and very informative. And I appreciate your time and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Daniel.
thank you. So that wraps up our podcast with Emma. I'd like to talk a little bit about what I've gotten most out of this interview. It's not the only thing I've tried. I definitely have not mastered the go back to sleep 4-7-8 breathing yet. It's something I've been practicing, but what I have used the most is being aware of my belly breathing and just catching myself through the day and going, take a deep breath right through the stomach. Now, when I take that deep breath, I notice my stomach is relaxing a little bit more with practice, and it actually protrudes out a little bit further when I take that belly breath, but I've made peace with that. And it is relaxing. I notice I'm not using my chest as much when I breathe. So thank you so much, Emma, for that tip. The biggest difference I've noticed is that my stomach is actually opening up more to take deeper breaths. So I and just let it sit in my stomach. And I've noticed my stomach protrudes a little further now, but it does allow me to take a deeper breath without using my chest. I hope you'll share something in social media or maybe in a review of what you found the most helpful. And please feel free to tag Emma on Instagram and let her know you like the podcast and what she's trying to do. Thanks so much for your time.